Alright, so for this week's How to Get Good, I'm sure you can tell, is about Urgot, the Dreadnought. Okay, starting out with his lore, before he became the Dreadnought and was a prisoner in Zon, which is a Noxus prison, he was a Noxian headsman that executed wrongdoers to the nation, and then one day he was framed and he got sent to Zon himself, which is a chemical underworld prison that is hell for anyone that lives in it, and most people would want themselves to be killed by the wardens so that they could be free. But after being cut by one of the wardens, Urgot found his own inner strength and decided to replace his body with machine because man is nothing, but machine rules man. So he became the best he could be by combining machine with his own flesh, and he caused a riot out of Zon into the overworld. Alright, now starting off actually with Urgot's abilities. Obviously, first, it's his passive, which each of his legs that he has, being six, conceals a shotgun underneath them. So whenever you shoot, it causes the shell to fire, and each shell has its own reload time that isn't shared with any other shell. And the higher level you get, the stronger these things become. At level 1, it deals 40% of your AD and 2% of the target's health, but at max rank, it's 100% of your AD with 6% of the target's health. And at, I think, when you're level 13, each leg only has a 2.5-second cooldown compared to the original 30 seconds. These shotguns do so much damage, and since you have 6 of them, this is your main source of damage in a sustained fight, and they are very strong. And the best way to shoot these is using your W. And unfortunately, Urgot has a really lame Q. He just fires a little canister and then it detonates after a very short delay of 0.3 seconds, causing a tiny itsy bitsy area slow. And the only reason you use this ability is because with your W, it prioritizes champions who have been hit by another ability. And if you've already used your E or you missed it, then this is another way to lock onto people. And also it's a way to slow people when you want to charge at them. Now it's time for your bread and butter. So Purge is your W, which allows you to fire your cannon that you have instead of just some, little single fire thing. You now get to shoot 3 times a second. And these shots also trigger the shotguns on your legs. And the very most important thing to know of this ability is that at max rank, you can have it on infinitely and it doesn't cost any mana, which basically turns you into a walking tank, while you already have your items at like level 9 that you can like tank pretty well and have some lifesteal. Though it's also important to note with this ability is that it reduces your movement speed and also gives you some slow resist. So if you're getting kited by someone, you can still kind of follow them. Though once you get your E off, then you're going to be in a winning advantage against them because they won't be able to escape you. Alright, so now on to his E, which is Disdain, which is mostly just a dash that goes for 150% of your AD at any rank, and your damage that you deal with the dash is 100% of your AD. So this ability is really good scaling, and the shield on it is really strong, and this is how you win 1v1s against other melee characters, even though you aren't melee yourself, obviously. But just use your E, get the shield, and then you also stun them. The most important thing about this ability isn't the shield nor the stun, it's the fact that you can flip them over to utilize the other shotgun shells you have. So if they're like to your left, you fire 1 to 2 shells at them, and then you flip them over, and then because they're stunned, you can get at least another 2 shells off. And this is how you want to deal most of your damage with your shells, is you flip them over, then use the W. Alright, now with his ultimate. This ability gets pretty crazy. Starting off, it only does 100 damage if they're like below a quarter of their health. And this ability is really bad at the first rank. Usually you want to wait until level 11 if you're actually trying to get someone below a quarter health. But this ability, when someone gets below a quarter of their health and the hook has hit them, then you launch chains at them and you bring them into your stomach and grind them up, and there's no way for them to escape it unless they have an ability that makes them invincible, like Tryndamere. And this ability does 9,999 true damage when they get pulled in, so there's no way for them to survive it. And this ability is really strong and has so much range. A lot of people underestimate it when they're trying to recall for their recall under their tower after a little scrap you had with them, and then you can drag them back towards you. And this ability is good in team fights if you get someone low before the fight. During a team fight, this ability is worthless, because if you're getting ganked by multiple people, then you can't land your chain on someone properly, and you're mostly just left to be shooting them as often as you can. Okay, now on the order you want to max his abilities in. As I mentioned earlier, you want to get your W up as fast as possible, though I recommend at level 1 taking your dash, because if someone tries to rush you, then it allows you to get a shield, and if they're really aggressive, you might be able to throw them under tower. And then, other than that, get the dash, which is your E up next, because the shield on it is insane, and it goes up pretty well with level. And your Q isn't that good. It takes a lot of your mana. It's the only ability that will make you run out of mana, though the slow on it gets better with each level, so it gives you some incentive to upgrading it quickly, though I wouldn't recommend it. From my time playing him, I've only really discovered one rune page that works well. I just go press the attack early game. Press the attack is really strong because every 3 autos it basically does like 80 damage, which is like another auto attack. And especially with Urgot's W, you can trigger press the attack in 1 second because you do 3 attacks a second, which makes this ability really strong. For Urgot, it's also just better for sustained damage, which is what Urgot's really good at. Also, Triumph's good just to heal yourself, obviously, because it allows you to consecutively win like fights. And Tenacity's the best. The one for attack speed is worthless until like mid-game. Then the attack speed is somewhat noticeable, but also by mid-game you have your W maxed, and attack speed does not help that in any way. So I take Tenacity because it's harder for you to get stun locked, and running Merc Treads and Legend Tenacity makes you really hard to lock down, which is really important because lots of people just like harassing you because you have pretty short range, to be honest. Unless you slow them and then throw them, then that's when you're in your ideal spot to fight people. And yeah. Alright, now with Urgot's items, either start with Doran's Blade or Doran's Shield. If you're fighting someone ranged, take Doran's Shield because they have more ways to harass you, so you need more ways to win trades with them. And then Doran's Blade if you're going to be up against a melee character, because you can usually just be an a-hole and just keep shooting them while they can fight back, which is fun when you get to harass like someone like Tryndamere. And then your first item you should go for is Death Stance, because it gives you armor and magic resistance and basically lifesteal, which is your best way just for bulking up. Though if you're fighting a really tanky top laner, take Black Cleaver, or you should also always take Black Cleaver, because its ability can be applied in 2 seconds by you, so you can get rid of a quarter of someone's armor basically, and it gives 20% cooldown reduction. The item's great overall. And for boots, take Ninja Tappy or Merc Treads. Most of the time take Merc Treads because you get Tenacity, and that's just, you can't find that anywhere else. And Frozen Mallet's good because you slow yourself with your W, so it's a good way to slow them down as well, so they can't escape. And Maw's good if you're fighting someone like a mage. He likes stunning you, and it also gives magic resist. And Righteous Glory is good for chasing people. Even after you have your W active, you can still catch up to them while you're shooting them, and then after the slow gets applied, then you can just bully them. And then Armor Pen, you can take Lords for guards for a lot of Armor Pen, or just take a Last Whisper so you can stop them from life stealing off of you and healing, which is what I always take and what I heavily recommend. And that has been today's video, and I hope you liked, and leave a comment down below on your thoughts about the video. And have a good one.